Balancing is an important aspect in rotating bodies, and this is always done to avoid vibrations. In industrial machines such as gas turbines and electric generators, it is done to avoid vibrations and also noise as well as discomfort. In this video, we are going to look at procedure of establishing a condition for static balance of two masses in the same plane. A guiding statement says, with the aid of a sketch, describe the procedure of establishing the condition for static balance of two masses in the same plane. Now let us consider two light arms fixed to a shaft at bearing O and rotating with angular velocity omega. These are the two light arms that we are talking about, and the bearing is at O, where the rotation is in a clockwise direction at a rate of angular velocity omega radians per second. The arms are in the same plane and carry masses m1 and m2 at radii r1, r2 respectively. Owing to rotation, each mass exerts an inertial force or centrifugal force radially outward on the bearing O. So we will have this mass, for example m1, exerting a force m1 omega squared r1. This is a centrifugal force and is always acting radially, trying to pull this object out of the circle which it is describing during the rotation motion. Likewise, at mass body 2 that has mass m2 is going to experience an inertial force m2 omega squared r1 radially, trying to pull it out of the circle which is describing as it is rotating around O, started at bearing O. The force due to m1, as we have already said, is m1 omega squared r1. Force due to m2 is m2 omega squared r2. Now, when the dynamic load on the bearing is 0, we must note that the system is in dynamic balance. First of all, the static forces acting on it when it is at rest, if the two forces are equal, then it is in static balance. But when it is moving, as long as it has attained the static balance, when it moves and there is no resultant dynamic force acting on it or acting on this bearing, then we shall say the system is also in dynamic balance. Now, having noted that, we also need to note that the condition for no load at O is that the inertial force shall act along a straight line but with opposite sense. That is 1. And 2, it shall be equal in magnitude. In other words, if we are having the two forces acting radially on this bearing, we have m1 omega squared r1 and m2 omega squared r2. If we establish a static and dynamic balance situation, then these forces are going to act in a straight line but in opposite sense. Then there shall also be these two forces shall be equal in magnitude if we are to say this system is in static balance as well as dynamic balance. Therefore, since the two forces are equal, m1 omega squared r1 is equal to m2 omega squared r2, and therefore dividing both sides by omega squared, then omega squared shall be cancelled out and will remain with m1 r1 is equal to m2 r2, and this is the condition for static and dynamic balance while rotating about the same arc. Thank you so much.